Why do so many seniors die within just 5 years of retirement? The answer isn't what you think. Most people expect retirement to be a reward, finally the time to relax after a lifetime of work. But for millions of seniors around the world, that freedom quickly becomes something else entirely, a slow, quiet collapse. Multiple studies from the US, Japan, and the UK have revealed a deeply troubling pattern. The risk of death increases by 40 to 60% in the first 5 years after retirement. That's not because of age. It's not because of sickness. It's because something more invisible breaks down purpose, movement, connection, identity. Retirement for many is not a gentle transition. It's more like slamming the brakes on a machine that was built to keep moving. Your brain, your heart, your body, they all slow down. And when nothing pulls you forward anymore, the system begins to shut down from within. If you've felt this, if you've retired or watched someone fade after stepping away from their career, you are not imagining it. And you are not alone. What you're going through has a name, it has a reason, and it has a solution. Because retirement doesn't have to be a slow death. It can be the beginning of a second, stronger chapter if you know what to avoid and how to rebuild the rhythm that keeps you alive. In this video, we'll uncover 7 hidden forces that slowly destroy seniors' health and joy after retirement, and more importantly, how to reverse them. No extreme changes, no guilt, just clarity, science, and small steps you can start today. Stay with me until the end, because the final reason we'll talk about, though rarely discussed, could be the single biggest factor that decides whether you keep living or start fading. So let's begin with the most dangerous loss of all, the quiet disappearance of purpose. Reason number 1, loss of purpose after retirement. For decades, you had a reason to wake up every morning, a job to go to, people to meet, problems to solve, deadlines, responsibilities. Even simple routines, all of it gave your day structure and your life meaning. But then retirement arrives, and quietly, without warning, the reason to rise begins to vanish. At first, it feels like freedom. No alarms, no emails, no pressure. But then the days start to blur. Monday feels like Wednesday. You stay in your pajamas longer. Meals become whenever. Time loses shape, and eventually so does identity. You're no longer the engineer, the nurse, the one they call for help. You're just someone at home. This isn't just a feeling. It's a neurological withdrawal. Purpose gives the brain a reason to produce dopamine, the chemical that drives motivation, energy, and even immunity. Without it, systems start to wind down. It's like leaving a house locked up for months. Dust gathers, pipes dry out, and things begin to break in silence. A long-term study published in The Lancet followed more than 43,000 older adults and found something remarkable. Those who had a strong sense of purpose, what the Japanese call ikigai, had lower rates of heart disease, stroke, and dementia. Those who didn't, they were more than twice as likely to die early, even if their physical health was otherwise normal. The good news is purpose doesn't have to be heroic. It just has to be true. It can be found in something as small as watering a plant, helping a neighbor, telling stories to your grandchildren, or fixing a broken chair. Write down 3 reasons to wake up tomorrow and just commit to one. Each action is a vote for life, a reminder that you still matter and that someone still benefits because you're here. If you feel stuck, ask yourself, who still needs me? What knowledge do I still hold that others don't? What little thing could I offer today that might make someone else smile or make me smile again? Because when purpose disappears, movement often goes with it. And that brings us to the next danger, one that doesn't just weaken the spirit, but breaks down the body too. Reason number 2, loss of physical movement and daily activity. Before retirement, even if you didn't go to the gym or exercise formally, your days probably still involved movement. Walking to the bus stop, climbing stairs at the office, shopping for groceries, tending the yard. Small things, but together they kept your body in rhythm. Then retirement happens, and suddenly you have nowhere to be, no reason to move. Days slip by with less walking, less standing, less reaching, bending, lifting. Sitting becomes the new normal. And slowly, without realizing it, the body begins to weaken, not because of age, but because it's no longer being asked to perform. Our muscles, bones, and joints work a lot like a house's plumbing system. When water flows regularly, everything stays clean and functional. But if you stop the flow even for a short time, sediment builds pipes, rust, and pressure backs up. Likewise, when we stop moving, circulation slows, joints stiffen, muscles shrink, and energy dips. Over time, even basic movements like getting out of a chair or lifting groceries feel harder, not because you are incapable, but because your body thinks movement is no longer needed. According to a study from the Journal of Aging and Health, adults over 65 who reduced their daily activity by just 30% experienced a loss of muscle strength and balance in as little as 2 weeks. And this decline wasn't just physical, it was linked to increased anxiety, poor sleep, and higher fall risk. But the good news is you don't need a gym or heavy weights to rebuild what's been lost. Start your morning with gentle stretching arms above the head, a few slow shoulder rolls, ankle circles before you even stand. Then walk. Walk inside the house if you have to, a lap around the kitchen, from the bedroom to the balcony and back. Movement is medicine even when it's modest. Try pairing movement with tasks you already do. March lightly in place while brushing your teeth. Do 10 wall pushes before lunch. Put music on and let your body sway, even if just for one song. And on days when motivation is low, make a deal with yourself, 5 minutes of movement, then rest. Most of the time, once you start, your body will ask for more. If you've been inactive for a while, ease back in with kindness. Your body isn't failing you, it's just waiting for a reason to reawaken. Now that we've talked about how the body slows down after retirement, let's look at something even more powerful. What happens when the people around you slowly fade too? Reason number 3, loss of social connection. Before retirement, you may not have noticed how many people you interacted with in a day. The colleague who waved good morning, the barista who knew your order, the security guard who asked about your grandkids. These small exchanges over months and years formed an invisible web of belonging, a daily rhythm of being seen, acknowledged, and remembered. After retirement, that web often unravels. Days become quieter, fewer phone calls, but less reason to go out. And what begins as finally some peace and quiet slowly becomes something else, isolation. You find yourself eating meals alone, going days without meaningful conversation, or thinking, I don't want to bother anyone. Human connection isn't just emotional, it's biological. Our brains are wired for social interaction. Connection triggers oxytocin, lowers cortisol, and boosts immune function. Without it, the body becomes more vulnerable to disease and the mind more prone to anxiety, depression, and cognitive decline. Loneliness is not the same as being alone. You can live with family and still feel deeply disconnected. You can be married and still feel invisible. A report by the National Institute on Aging found that loneliness increases the risk of early death by 26% and has a health impact equivalent to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Think of your social life like a garden. If left unattended, it dries up. But even a little sunlight and water, an occasional call, a shared cup of tea, a walk with a neighbor can bring it back to life. You don't need dozens of friends, just a few real, regular connections that feel safe, mutual, and warm. Start with one message a day. Reach out to someone you haven't spoken to in a while. Say, I was just thinking of you. Join a small group that meets weekly, a class, a book club, a morning walk circle. Attend a local church service or community meal, not for the ritual, but for the rhythm. Invite someone over, even if your home feels imperfect. People don't come for your furniture, they come for your presence. And when you reconnect, even briefly, your nervous system relaxes, your memory sharpens, your laughter returns, because you're reminded you still matter to someone. But while some people disappear, the most dangerous thing is when you begin to disappear from yourself. Let's talk next about what happens when you stop caring for your own body and start letting yourself go. Reason number 4, neglecting self-care and personal appearance. It starts small. Maybe you stop shaving every morning, or you leave your hair undone because you're not going anywhere anyway. You start wearing the same clothes for days, skipping your favorite perfume, eating whatever's easiest instead of what's healthiest. It doesn't feel like giving up. It just feels convenient, quiet, simple. But over time, that simplicity turns into something heavier. The mirror becomes something you avoid. You stop looking yourself in the eye. And slowly a dangerous message starts to form deep inside, I don't need to take care of myself anymore. No one's watching. But your body is watching. Your brain is listening. Every time you choose to stop caring for yourself, your biology responds by lowering energy, weakening mood, and shrinking self-esteem. Think of self-care like a thermostat in a house. If you stop adjusting it, stop checking on it, stop making it comfortable, the whole system eventually becomes stale, cold, lifeless. Psychologists have found that appearance-based self-neglect in seniors strongly correlates with depression, faster cognitive decline, and even physical deterioration. A study in the gerontologist showed that older adults who continued to groom, dress well, and maintain basic routines had higher resilience, stronger immune responses, and better recovery rates after illness, regardless of income or education. But restoring self-care doesn't mean returning to who you were at 30. It means honoring who you are now. Start with one thing each morning. Put on clothes you feel good in, even if no one will see. Comb your hair slowly, not out of obligation, but as an act of dignity. Prepare a plate of food like you're serving someone you love, because you are. Try brushing your teeth, mindfully moisturizing your face, trimming your nails. Even these small rituals signal to your brain that I am still alive and I'm still worth the effort. Set a routine, even a loose one. Wake, wash, stretch, change clothes, move your body. These anchors don't just support your health, they remind you that your presence still matters. And if you've already let things go for a while, begin gently. Pick one area to focus on this week. Celebrate the small wins, a shower, a fresh shirt, a well-cooked meal. The goal isn't perfection, it's re-entering the rhythm of care. Because when you treat yourself with care, your body listens and the world responds in kind. But there's something deeper than how you look, something even more fragile than routine. And that's the quiet collapse of identity after retirement. Let's talk about what happens when you no longer know who you are. Reason number 5, loss of identity after retirement. For years, maybe even decades, your name was always followed by something. Doctor, teacher, officer, manager, builder, the one who fixed things, the one they trusted, the one who got it done. But after retirement, that title quietly disappears. And with it, something else begins to fade your sense of self. It happens slowly. People stop asking for your opinion. You're no longer the one who signs papers or solves problems. You're introduced now as someone's husband, someone's grandmother, someone's retired neighbor. And you start wondering, if I'm not who I used to be, who am I now? This is more than just emotional. Our sense of identity is deeply wired into how our brain organizes meaning. When that identity disappears, the brain struggles to find new structure, and that gap can feel like a kind of mental free fall. It's like standing in a room where all the furniture has been taken out. You're still there, but everything that gave the space its shape is missing. According to research published in the Journal of Aging Studies, older adults who experienced a loss of identity after retirement were 3 times more likely to suffer from depressive symptoms and twice as likely to report feelings of worthlessness or isolation, regardless of physical health. But identity doesn't have to be tied to a title. It can shift, evolve, and deepen. You may no longer be a CEO, but you might become the family historian. You may not teach in a classroom, but you can mentor someone younger. You might not run a company, but you can lead a conversation guide, a grandchild, or host a gathering that brings people together. Begin by redefining yourself in verbs, not nouns. Not I was a nurse, but I still care deeply for others. Not I used to build, but I still love creating things with my hands. Think about what drove you beneath the job title, your values, your gifts, your instincts. Those don't retire, they just wait to be reassigned. Try writing a new about me paragraph just for yourself. Who are you now? Who are you becoming? What still matters most to you? When you start answering those questions, you don't just reclaim your identity, you expand it. And once you begin to rebuild who you are, another weight often rises to the surface. The quiet pressure, finances, and the stress of wondering whether you'll be okay. Let's talk about the emotional toll of financial worry and how it quietly steals years from the lives of retirees. Reason number 6, financial stress after retirement. You thought retirement would be simpler, fewer expenses, slower days, a smaller life maybe, but one without the weight of worry. And yet for many seniors, the financial pressure after retirement becomes heavier than ever. There's the rising cost of healthcare, unexpected home repairs, groceries that somehow cost twice what they used to, children or grandchildren who need help, and the constant background question, will what I have be enough? This kind of stress doesn't always show up as panic. It often shows up as quiet restraint, skipping meals to save money, turning down social invitations, putting off doctor visits, saying I'm fine when you're not because you don't want to be a burden. Financial stress in older adults is like a slow leak in a tire. The pressure drops just a little more each day until you're running flat and don't even notice. And it doesn't just affect the wallet. Chronic stress triggers the release of cortisol, which over time raises blood pressure, disrupts sleep, impairs immune function, and accelerates aging. A 2022 study from the Journal of Gerontology found that retirees who reported frequent financial anxiety had a 78% higher risk of depressive symptoms and a significantly lower quality of life, even if they had enough savings on paper. But here's what's often misunderstood: managing financial stress in retirement isn't just about having more money. It's about regaining a sense of control and openness. That starts with clarity, knowing exactly what you have, what you need, and what you can adjust. Create a simple monthly budget. Review your fixed costs. Identify what truly brings value and where you might simplify without sacrifice. Talk to someone, a financial advisor, a family member you trust, or a local community resource center. There are more support systems available than many people realize, but pride often keeps them hidden. Remember, asking for guidance is not failure, it's wisdom. And sometimes contribution can help more than cutting back. If you have skills, hobbies, or time, there may be ways to earn a little extra or trade services in a way that's meaningful. Teaching piano, fixing small electronics, even babysitting once a week, these aren't just about money. They restore your sense of value. But perhaps the most important step is this: stop suffering alone. Speak your fears aloud. The people who love you would rather hear your worries now than your regrets later. Because when stress stays bottled up, it turns inwarded and begins to shrink the soul. And that brings us to the final, most silent danger of all: the fear of becoming a burden and the quiet decision to disappear. Reason number 7, feeling like a burden and withdrawing from life. It's not always spoken out loud. In fact, it rarely is. But many seniors at some point begin to feel it quietly, deeply: I'm becoming a burden. Maybe it's the way your family offers to carry the groceries now, or how they repeat things twice just in case you didn't hear. Maybe you've started forgetting small details, needing more rest, or asking for more help. No one complains, but still, you feel it, the shift, and with it a sense of shrinking. This fear doesn't scream, it whispers. So you begin to pull back. You stop sharing your worries. You stop asking for help. You avoid conversations about your needs, because the last thing you want is to be that person, the one others have to adjust around. But what begins as modesty slowly becomes withdrawal. You stop attending gatherings. You keep your opinions to yourself. You start saying, I'm okay, even when you're not. Emotionally, it's like turning down the lights in a room one by one until eventually you're sitting in the dark alone. From a biological perspective, this kind of self-withdrawal is dangerous. The brain interprets social isolation as a survival threat, increasing stress hormones and reducing neural activity tied to reward and engagement. Over time, this leads to faster cognitive decline, weaker immunity, and a higher risk of both depression and physical illness. A meta-analysis in Perspectives on Psychological Science found that seniors who felt they were a burden had a significantly higher risk of premature death, regardless of their actual health status. But the truth is, being vulnerable is not being a burden. Receiving help is not weakness. It's human. And often when we let others help us, we're giving them the gift of feeling useful, needed, and connected. So instead of shrinking, try sharing gently, honestly. Let a loved one know when you're feeling uncertain. Say yes when someone offers support. Ask for a ride, a conversation, a hand with something small. You're not taking up space, you're holding space in someone's life, and that matters. Rebuild your confidence in small ways. Teach someone something you know. Offer to help with what you can do, even if it's just listening. And remember, presence is not measured by productivity. Your worth does not expire with your job title or energy level. You are not a burden. You are a story still unfolding. And the next chapter is yours to shape. Because now that we've uncovered these 7 silent dangers, it's time to take a breath and ask, what can we do starting today to protect our life after retirement and make it truly worth living? So now you know, retirement isn't dangerous because of what it takes away. It's dangerous because of what we stop giving ourselves: purpose, movement, connection, care, and the belief that we still matter. But here's the good news: none of this decline is inevitable. These aren't signs of aging, they're signals your body and mind asking for a different kind of attention. And if you've recognized even one of these patterns in your own life, then you've already taken the first step. Awareness is where healing begins. You don't have to change everything at once. Just choose one small thing. Reconnect with someone. Take a 5-minute walk. Say yes to help. Say no to isolation. Pick one thing, do it with heart, and let it remind your body that you're still here and still needed. If this video spoke to you, leave a comment below that says, "I'm choosing to live fully." Not just exist, not just drift, but live with intention. And if you know someone nearing retirement or already in it, share this video with them. It might be the conversation that saves their next chapter. Lastly, don't forget to subscribe, because here we don't talk down to age, we rise with it. One story, one habit, one breath at a time.